Well, the Orioles season came to an abrupt and quick end yesterday. Roch, I know we said we were hoping that we would be back today when we were talking on the field during batting practice earlier. Didn't really hope it would be in this capacity.
Oh, I didn't know you meant that.
Yeah.
Not in the studio, but on the ice, understand. Yeah, that was, it's jarring when it's that abrupt. It's a marathon, they tell you, not a sprint, and then it just comes like to the sudden halt, and you walk out of the ballpark at the end of another long day and night, and it's a little bit of a haze, like, wow, this is it, it's over.
Yeah, 162 ends quickly in 2 for the Baltimore Orioles. It ended quickly in 3 last year. Let's talk about the game yesterday. I mean, really, the series as a whole, short as it was, you score 1 run over 2 games, and you're not going to win many playoff games.
That's the instant analysis.
Thank you. That's what everybody comes here for.
Enough runs.
Yeah.
They only gave up 3. That should be enough in 2 games. Giving up 3 should be enough to win a series. And they just did not hit. And, you know, you hate that tip the cap thing. The Royals pitched really, really well. But they also caught the Orioles in this funk that extended for most of the second half, it felt like, where they just were not hitting the way they were earlier. For whatever reason, their approach was terrible suddenly again, where the things they preach all the time, it just seems like they get away from it. It can be some of the young hitters. It could be the pressure to produce, a little bit of panic. You had guys swinging out of their spikes that they normally don't do, chasing. You look at the pitch charts and some of the at-bats, the guys are swinging at balls that aren't even close to being in that box. And I'm sure in the dugout, they're telling them, hey, you know, reminder, this. But once you're stepping on the plate and there's that kind of postseason pressure, they just reverted to some really bad habits. And they wasted really good pitching performances, especially Corbin Burns. That's a crime. And I think that just adds to the frustration level. It's not that you want to lose 8-1, but it wasn't like they just got steamrolled. 2 very winnable games and you score 1 run.
Yeah, the pitching was excellent. The offense just didn't put things together. And unfortunately for Baltimore now, there is plenty of time for analysis. We heard from Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde today. It's kind of the second year in a row we're having these same sorts of press conferences. That's what Elias said. I'm here again. And that's a failure kind of thing.
Too soon.
Yeah, exactly. The Orioles with an abrupt playoff end 2 years in a row. Right. Let's get to some of the things we heard. We'll start from Mike Elias. I think this was a given. He confirmed that Brandon Hyde was going to be back for next season. I know the knee-jerk reaction after a disappointing result in the playoffs is to try to make some big shakeups here and there. Mike Elias basically saying Brandon Hyde has been with us throughout this process. He was excellent even when this team was rebuilding. It's still back-to-back 90-win seasons, back-to-back playoff appearances. Not the result you wanted, but it still got them there in the right direction.
Right. They were never going to replace Brandon Hyde at this point. I mean, you have shakeups sometimes, but not in an organization where you lost 110, 115 games, went through this rebuild, and you're a back-to-back playoff team. That would have been quite the reversal from where they've been going here with him and how they feel about him as their guy to say that's not good enough now. And I've been saying this, they did it backward. They had their 83-win season. They should have had this season after that. Was it 91 wins?
Yeah.
Wild card. Then you go to 101 and the division series. And then people would be like, we're trending in the right direction. Everybody would be really celebrating. Disappointed, but celebrating now the next step. It's going to be the ALCS World Series. Instead, they went back, and it looks like it's a massive failure. And when I asked Brandon Hyde about that, how do you view this season? Is it a success? He said yes or no, yes and no. And he pointed out the good things we're talking about. You know, they made the playoffs again, home wild card. But it ended too soon, and it was 10 fewer losses. Now we could go ahead and argue with all the injuries. People say it started out being an explanation, then people think it became a lame excuse. You're a good numbers guy, I'm sure. I'm just assuming. I don't know why. How many wins would you attach if you had that list of guys on the IL? How many wins does Kyle Bradish get you? How many wins, let's say, Felix Bautista?
Right.
With Tyler Well, John Means, and we could go, with Westberg and all these other guys. How many wins Danny Coulombe? And does that give you more than the 10 that they fell short of to reach last year's total?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to
look,
if you want to look based solely at WAR, you're
Who's
talking about a lot of.
Amy? Anybody got a pen?
Yeah, you're talking about a lot of 4 or 5 WAR players. Yeah. So if you're going based solely on wins above replacement, those guys might pick you up close to 10 wins there. And I think that was a general takeaway from what we heard from Elias and Hyde here as well, where last year, a lot of things went right. You didn't have the same extent of injuries that you had this season. This season was about overcoming adversity. You had to push through a lot of things, especially in the second half with guys going down. So yes, while it's a disappointing result, you're not going to completely abandon the process that got you here.
Right. You're going to assume that you're going to, first of all, have better injury luck, you would hope, next year. But also, you got to work on the depth because there could be some criticisms that they didn't have the right replacements. They weren't aggressive enough deadline-wise to address certain things. And Michael has even said, we addressed the pitching. I mean, Eflin, that's a great trade. And he's under team control next year, which is very important. They weren't anticipating the offense falling off as much as it did. He said, that's on me. And he said that in September as well. And he said it again in his presser, that he was not expecting that, or maybe you kind of address offense more aggressively than they did. It just, even the guys that we assume are healthy and had the track records or whatever, just stopped hitting. And then we could always go back again to kicking around why was that. But, you know, they're not hitting with runners in scoring position, and you know, the big bats that they were counting on who were in the lineup just weren't coming through for them.
Yeah, they're not going to completely abandon the process, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to take a long, hard look in the mirror and try to figure out how to come back better next year. And of course, the offseason is going to be a big time to get better next season. Getting guys back healthy is going to help a lot. There are players that should be ready for spring training that will make a big impact next year. But Mike Elias was also asked, hey, do you think the payroll is going to increase for next season? We saw them go chips in trade-wise this year. You moved Joey Ortiz and DL Hall for a guy like Corbin Burns. Burns and Anthony Santander, of course, the two big-name guys in Baltimore right now whose status is uncertain for next season. But Elias did say he would be surprised if the payroll didn't increase next year.
Right. He kind of smiled and said, yeah, I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah.
I thought they were having this press conference to announce extensions for Burns and Santander.
That would have been nice.
That would have been huge, and it wasn't that at all. Now, I don't know whether, Burns, I'd be shocked just because, and I realize this is our first off season with the new ownership, but they're not traditionally a team that's gone, all in bidding wars, especially for starting pitching. So, and Burns is going to be just off the charts, and he's going to deserve every penny he gets. It'd be really hard for me to imagine them being able to outbid everybody else for him and sink that much of their payroll into this one guy. Santander, more reasonable, but what's he going to earn now? I don't know how much the hometown discount he gets. I know he really wants to stay. And if you were in that clubhouse after the game, to see him just staying there with his hands on his hips and kind of just staring at everything as if he was soaking it in like this is probably it. I'm not going to be seeing these guys. I'm probably moving on. He doesn't want to leave. Very melancholy, really sad moment. But who knows? Because that's 40-some home runs. You're going to have to replace switch hitter, your right fielder who played well defensively, and he's become much more durable. You're going to be looking for that guy. So maybe there's a chance there. But payroll between moves they're going to make, arbitration raises, yes, it should certainly increase. We just don't know how much. We hear the word billionaire with ownership, and we assume dollar bills are just stuffed in the pockets, and David Rubenstein's tossing $100 bills like he has Oriole caps by the dugout, and we don't know that.
Yeah.
He's got, I've been asked, does he have the means to spend? Well, yes. But
he certainly has the means,
yes. But that doesn't mean that they're now going to be spending money like the Yankees and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to see, it's going to be very interesting to see because this is going to be a completely different offseason than we're used to.
Yeah, and I think the general takeaway here, as disappointing as the result is, as bitter as the taste in everybody's mouth is, this is going to be a similar kind of approach that we have seen from the Orioles over the past few seasons. Yes, maybe they will spend more. It's still going to be calculated. Right. And yes, maybe there will be changes, but it's still a good process that has gotten them here. And there's not going to be drastic movements here.
Right. Michael Elias used the word smart. We're still going to be smart about it, even if we expect the payroll to go up, which is why you don't go ahead and burden yourself with one of these huge, unwieldy contracts that you're trying to get out from under, kind of like one he inherited when he first came aboard. One of those kind of deals. They're going to be very careful about that.
Yeah.
But they certainly can go ahead and be aggressive to make certain moves, more aggressive maybe than the past, and they know where the deficiencies are. And I feel like they're kind of scolding themselves a little bit for falling this short, and they're vowing like, we're very serious. We're not going to stop working. They're already talking about their off-season plan.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're going to kick back for a while and kind of let the market play out. More air quotes. Maybe those days are gone. I don't know. But they are already kind of getting a plan of attack underway to address what hasn't been addressed that maybe they feel like should have been, or what has cropped up where they're like, we're going to have to look more at certain things. And I certainly think the offense is one of them. And, we'll look at the rotation. You've got Eflin. That's great, but you're losing Burns, and Bradish won't be ready, and Wells won't be ready, and John Means is a free agent who wouldn't be ready anyway. So, Trevor Rogers, they certainly haven't given up on him. but they are still probably going to be looking for a starter. Grayson Rodriguez should be full go spring training. But again, there are multiple areas to look at. Felix Bautista expected to be full go. At least you've got him.
Yeah, encouraging signs heading into next season. But as Elias said at the beginning of his press conference, he was disappointed to have a press conference that early in October, 2 years in a row. I can't imagine what the sentiment would be 3 years in a row.
Right,
so
right.
We will anticipate some moves in the offseason, whatever they may be. We know our MASN Orioles insider, Roch Kubatko, will have us covered on MASNsports.com. Roch, go take a nap or something. It was a long 164.
Thank you.